What's up, guys? Dark Spark here. Hoping you guys are having a happy Thanksgiving. What does this have to do with anything about this video? Nothing. Because today I'll be explaining the spin rocket. Alright guys, before we get started, I must say this. Everything that I'm about to do not try this at home. This is very dangerous and I wouldn't want anyone getting hurt. Thank you very much. With all that said and done, let's get through with this video. Alright, so to begin with, I like to choose a tube, and the length of tube for me is usually the length of this little rod right here that sticks into it. I like to make sure it's about an inch or so taller than the top of this, because when you're pounding out your rocket, you're going to get to that point and then you'll be able to put your little bulkhead on there to keep all the stuff in there from blowing out. And also I got my drift, made it myself, but it's pretty much exactly what they use. And that's it. I start off by putting a little clay into it. The clay I got here, I got from a lake that we have here in town. There's a bunch of clay just right there on the little shoreline of it, so I was like, swoop, got that. So I like to crush it all up, make it pretty fine. Doesn't have to be extra fine, you want a little coarseness in there. I noticed that when there's some chunks in the clay, it seems to hold a little better. So once we got it pretty ground down pretty good, just start putting it in the top of this tube. Once I feel like I got a good amount in there, take my drift, ease it on in there. Then with my mallet, I'll strike it a few times. See, because I don't want that clay getting stuck up in that neck, which is a problem. For me right now especially. Alright, now that I got that sorted out, just pound it in. I usually like to give it like 5 good whacks. I like to use the same amount of hits as I'm doing the powder too, because I feel like it makes it more consistent in the burn. You don't want to hit it too hard to where you bust the bottom of it. But these tubes are pretty strong. I made them and pretty good. They haven't busted on me yet. So anyways, now that I see that I'm right here, I just hold my finger right there, and that'll tell me what the depth is, and that's pretty good. So now I just look inside. Looks pretty good. So now I can start adding my powder. Okay, so now for the powder, I usually like to take my vial here, and I add about 2 capfuls at a time, because if you do any more than that, you run the chance of pinching your tube as you're ramming the powder down in it. And that sucks, because when you take it off of there, it just breaks apart. So I try to avoid that as best I can. So now that I got 2 loaded in there, take my ramrod, or my drift I mean, and I work it in there. I tap it a few times to make sure that it's not all clumped up like that clay was. Then I give it a few good whacks. Make sure the bottom looks all right. We're good to go. We'll do another capful. All right, now that all my powder's in, now just simply do the reverse and just gotta pack a little more clay. So you can just fill it up now, since this is the last thing that you got to do. So now all that's left to do, once the clay is rammed in there, is to remove it from the rod. And what you're left with is a nice little rocket. Now to make it spin, we got to do one more thing. So now this hole that you make is going to have to be right at the edge of the nozzle. Luckily I marked it earlier to where my ramrod was at. It's right about there. Oh, sorry about that. It's right about there. So I'm going to make a hole at an angle to where it's just skimming the skin of the rocket, and not directly in the middle of it, but off to the side, so that it's skimming the wall of that rocket. Not all the way through, just through one wall and to the other one, but not through. And voila! Now there's only one thing left to do. Let's go try it out.